Amsterdam, a city famous for its freedom, art, and culture. But beneath the surface lies a darker side. Crime, violence, and murder have been a reality here for years. Today, we dive deeper into a man who, according to the justice system, played a key role in this underworld, Dino Soerel. How did a boy from Purmerend rise to become one of the most feared criminals in the Netherlands? Dino Soerel was born on December 6, 1960, in Amsterdam and later moved to Purmerend. His father was from Suriname, and his mother was Dutch. As a young boy, Dino was quiet, often found at the gym, where he discovered his passion for free fight. What seemed like an innocent love for sports would soon change his life forever, influenced by the people around him. The 1980s marked a turning point in the Dutch underworld. Drugs, particularly cocaine, found their way into Amsterdam, and the city quickly became a hub for the global trade. At the age of 28, Dino worked as a bouncer at a nightclub called The Movies in Volendam, where he met Martin Koch and Joop van der Loo. These friendships pulled him further into the criminal world. On February 12, 1989, things took a horrific turn. Together with Koch and van der Loo, Dino brutally beat Peter Griesbergen, who later died from his injuries. Dino was sentenced to 4 years in prison. In Veenhuizen prison, Soerel crossed paths with notorious criminals like Soerel van Hout, Willem Holleder, and later Stanley Hillis. These encounters would prove crucial for Dino's future career. His connections in prison opened the door to the highest circles of organized crime. After his release in 1990, Soerel was introduced to large-scale drug trafficking through Jan Femmer. At that time, Femmer, Stanley Hillis, and Mink Koch were heavily involved in the production and distribution of ecstasy, and Dino became a key player in their organization. When Femmer was murdered in 2000, Soerel allegedly stepped up as a new leader, according to law enforcement. Soerel established his own organization, using coded language to cover up his deals. Officially, his company traded in soap, buttons, and sugar, but in reality, it smuggled large quantities of drugs across Europe. Ecstasy, cocaine, heroin, nothing was too big or risky for his network. In 2003, Dino and Willem Holleder were arrested on the PC Hoofdstraat after an anonymous tip. Police found weapons, a large amount of cash, and confidential police documents in their car. Dino was sentenced to a year in prison, but this wouldn't be the last time the authorities heard from him. That same year, a major arrest took place in England. Arno J. was caught, and in his possession was a complete accounting ledger of the international drug trade. This document placed Soerel even more in the spotlight of the authorities. Dino was increasingly seen as a significant figure within the criminal networks. Soerel was also linked to the murder of real estate magnate Willem Enstra. Enstra, once known as the banker of the underworld, was gunned down in broad daylight outside his office in Amsterdam. In secret conversations with the police, Enstra revealed that he considered Soerel the most powerful criminal in the Netherlands. Enstra described Dino as the king of the underworld, a man everyone feared. But despite these accusations, it took years before authorities could link Soerel to the murder during the so-called Passage trial. In those years, Dino went into hiding and managed to evade police capture for years. However, in January 2010, Soerel was placed on the National Wanted list. 6 months later, on August 27, 2010, he was finally arrested in his apartment on the Rozengracht in Amsterdam. Police found 2 fake passports, wigs, and glasses, which suggested that Dino had been trying to stay off the radar. An anonymous tipster came forward, though rumors circulated that someone within his own circle had turned him in. His arrest was a media spectacle, with the press closely following the dramatic takedown. But the question remains, was he truly betrayed by his own people? Soerel was ultimately sentenced to 7 years in prison for his role in a criminal organization. He also received an additional 6 months for money laundering and possession of false passports. At the time, he was acquitted of involvement in the murders of Kees Houtman, Thomas van der Bijl, and Willem Enstra. But the story didn't end there. The Passage trial, which began in 2007, revolved around a series of assassinations within the Amsterdam underworld. Several key witnesses came forward, including Peter Lusserp and later Fred Roos, both of whom pointed to Soerel as the mastermind behind multiple murders. These testimonies eventually led to Dino Soerel's conviction. After 10 years of legal battles, in June 2017, he was sentenced to life imprisonment for his involvement in the assassinations of Kees Houtman and Thomas van der Bijl. Later, it became clear that Willem Holleder was behind the murder of Willem Enstra, not Dino. However, Soerel has always maintained his innocence, claiming he was convicted based on his reputation, not solid evidence. The question remains, was Dino Soerel truly the godfather of the Dutch underworld, or was he merely a pawn in a larger game? His story remains one of the most gripping in Dutch crime history, illustrating how difficult it is to uncover the truth in a world full of lies and violence. This was the story of Dino Soerel, one of the most infamous figures in the Dutch underworld. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the dark side of Amsterdam. Because in this world, you never really know who's pulling the strings.